So the Warmap group went to Nanjing in September of 2016 to visit the new Nanjing Massacre Memorial Hall and its annex. The latter had just been reopened, and I think we can all agree it was a rather impressive site, and I would like to start by collecting just a few impressions of this particular site.
Well, it's actually the third time that I've been to the Nanjing Massacre Memorial. So I went there, I think, first time in 2004, and then it was completely rebuilt in 2007 for the that was the 70th anniversary of the beginning of the war with Japan,
right,
in 1937. And then, as you said, this new annex to the memorial was opened in 2015, and so we were going there to see this new annex and see, how that had transformed the site. And well, we'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. But prior to visiting the memorial, I'd already visited the museum at Lugochao, the site near Beijing where the war sort of formally began in 1937, the Second Sino-Japanese War. And I'd also visited a museum in Shanghai called the Songhu Battle Museum. And as you can imagine, for the 70th anniversary of the end of the war in 2015, many war-related sites around China had a makeover. And in all cases, the sort of renovation of these exhibitions involved a sort of new emphasis or a re-emphasis on the role of the Communist Party, and also a very strong theme of victory and celebrating victory and Chinese strength and the contribution of China under the Communist Party's leadership in sort of bringing about the defeat of fascism.
Right, I think this was a really strong theme that ran through the entire museum and even more so in the new annex. Well, what was the first thing that really struck you, Mark or Tim, when you first came to the site?
Well, we went there on a weekend where we were one of some of the few foreigners, I think, who visited. And it was a largely Chinese audience. It was an intense event, and I felt in the old...
Intense in numbers?
Intense in numbers and also in the emotion. So the 2007 revamped site, which we visited first, I felt it was a real exercise in manipulating and generating anti-Japanese sentiment, with this overlay, this daubed with this kind of not whitewash, but in a sense of a sort of effort to appear like a peace museum. So we walk in initially, it's a peace museum, and then most of the exhibits are generating, they're in some very explicit ways showing atrocity. And it was a very charged atmosphere, and I don't believe, you know a bit more about this, but I don't believe it was also always such a kind of a museum of hate in a way.
In a way, the sort of pre-2007 version of that exhibition was just as manipulative, but in a rather cruder fashion. It was very dark. So the current exhibition is very dark. You go in and it's dark. It's black. Black is the sort of key colour. And although there's an awful lot of text, and the text is lit up, the general atmosphere is this atmosphere of gloom and foreboding, and that was there in the previous exhibition, actually, but in a rather sort of cruder fashion.
I think for me, because I'd read a bit about the director, I researched a bit on the director, Zhu Chengshan, and his efforts to create a peace museum, the way he tied up with these networks of peace museums in Japan, and they had these kind of manga diplomacy efforts and all sorts of exchanges, and the way he wanted to hook up with Holocaust memorial museums in the Western world. And I was expecting in a way something more international in many ways. And so I was surprised when I went there just how much it played a fundamental role, I suppose, in an old narrative of victimhood.
Let's go back to your original question in terms of how did we all react to it? What were the impressions we took? For me, it was confusing space and interesting space in a sense. It was very much a multivalent space. It was both a memorial, It was a monument, it was a museum, but it was also an archaeological site, which often gets forgotten, and also a burial site. So that, I think, gets often lost in so there's a number of things it's doing.
Increasingly lost.
Exactly, yeah. So it's performing a number of functions, if that's the right way to describe it. I think it is the right way to describe it, in the ways in which this new annex is doing a lot of political work in trying to, there's a lot of civic education going on for the domestic Chinese today, particularly as you see on those visits. On the day we were there, it was very clear this is a very, very popular school-based excursion, and you can imagine that's for not just the city, for much within the province. So it's provocative in the way it confronts both the perpetrators and the victims of this atrocity in a way that I think is somewhat more contentious than you will get in North American or European museums today. So there's an interesting tension, I think, between the ways in which it still uses very nationalistic ways of presenting museums and thinking about memorials and monuments, but at the same time connects with more international movements in this that have happened in the last 20 years, where it's connecting with other sites around the world that have that kind of same type of visual culture, same technologies of display, same genres of display, but at the same time it embeds itself back into the national very, very powerfully in a way that is quite confronting to the obviously Japan itself today, and that therefore it has very much a diplomatic component to it as well.
Absolutely.